culture, adventure, and the impact of martial arts. That's what we study here at Kung Fu Podcasts. I'm your host, T.W. Smith, and today we're going to be talking about self-discovery, being your best. When did self-actualization become a theme in Chinese martial arts? I want to say thank you right off the bat to Miss Esther Berg. Her links are on the website and in the PDF document on her original essay, Becoming Your Best, on the construction of martial arts as means of self-actualization and self-improvements in the Journalism, Media, and Cultural Studies Journal, June 2014. That's a real tongue twister, but it was a 22-page essay. And Ms. Berg is a PhD candidate, and you can find more of her information right there on the webpage about her current studies. And I know for a fact that we're going to be reviewing another essay she has coming up here pretty soon as well. I want to say thank you to Sensei Ando for encouraging words from Twitter, and Jason E. Smith for retweeting some of the titles that we had put out there. Spirit TKD Academy, Matthew Banks and Alan McVeigh of Facebook for connecting. Just so you all know, I do undergo regular Facebook and Google Plus training, so bear with me. I'm still learning how to try to find when you send me a message exactly what little button I'm supposed to push and click. But I am finding it. I'm trying to respond. And if nothing else, I try to respond both on the website and here, letting you all know that I appreciate your encouraging words, your support, and anything that you do to help circulate what we're doing. I also want to let you all know that I don't try to hog the show. This is a show about martial arts. Just so happens my background for over 30 years is all in Kung Fu, Chinese medicine, culture, health, martial arts. I had a young man just send me some information about his research book that he's trying to get published, or he's self-published. And so I'm going to review it, put some things out about it. And that's exactly the kind of project I like to get involved in. So before we go any further, I want to follow the advice that my good friend Mr. Ben Judkins over at the Kung Fu Tea blog has often said, or at least in some of the things I read of his, is that I'm going to try to define the context of our conversation. Self-actualization, or self-discovery as I usually think of it, defined by Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is as follows, quote, as the final level of psychological development that can be achieved when all basic and mental needs are essentially fulfilled and the actualization of the full personal potential takes place. My interpretation of that, take care of the fundamentals before you get to the refined. Halfway through this review on this essay by Ms. Berg, I realized that the first question my Sifu ever asked me when I told him I wanted to learn Kung Fu is, he said, why do you want to learn Kung Fu? And my answer was, sincerely, I've been through enough. I want to know myself. I didn't realize that till I was halfway through that I was actually a case study in this own essay. In the PDF file that you could find at the White Bamboo store, I have several pictures integrated with the movie story and the outline. And the one I'm looking at now is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And as a refresher here, at the bottom of this pyramid is physiological needs, food, water, warmth. Right above that are safety needs, security and safety. Above that, belonging, acceptance, intimate relationships and friends. Esteem comes above that, prestige and feelings of accomplishment, and then self-actualization is the top of this pyramid. Now, when I'm looking at it, down there right above physiological needs were safety needs, security and safety. So my question when I was drafting this out was, isn't that where the physical culture of combat martial arts, fighting techniques and strategies, if it was purely just fighting and strategy, wouldn't it be logged under safety needs? We're assuming that you've taken care of all the food, water, things along those lines. So now it's about protecting your own from aggressors. During this essay, as I have told Mr. Judkins and I wrote to Miss Berg, whenever I'm reading these smart folks' essays, I arm myself. I grab myself a highlighter, sometimes two. I grab my dictionary, and I get ready. I support myself with lots of coffee and good water. Provenance was a new word for me. I had to look that up. What did it mean? And in this essay, we're looking at defining it as the historical, social, and cultural conditions that we can follow through the path. It's not necessarily following so that we can identify the authentic origin of anything. It's following the path. The article is to follow the provenance that wove Chinese martial arts into spiritual, religious, and therapeutic practices. There were three primary markers that Ms. Berg points to that provided a window for the blending of self-actualization into the Chinese martial arts. The first one is the pre-Ming Dynasty. Prior to the Ming Dynasty, 1368 through 1644, check your timelines there about some of the other stuff that was going on around the world at that time, there isn't much evidence of warrior monks practicing martial arts. By much evidence, written, factual, you know how these historians are. They're not talking about legends. They're talking about things that they can actually find, artifacts, something. According to these smart folks, there's not a lot of that out there. Not that there's not any, I'm not saying that. But as she goes on to say, but during the Ming Dynasty, there became a blossom of sources, rich, stating warrior monks practicing empty hand techniques at the temples. Now in the file here, I'm looking at a recent picture of three Shaolin monks, one standing in a prayer position and one on each side of him, both holding weapons in combat postures. I bring this up because it's a good illustration of the icon that the warrior monk has grown to present. Mir Shahar, who we referred to in one of the episodes before through Ben, reports that during the late Ming Dynasty, terms and concepts were used differently than before. Many of the terms that have been previously used in the context of self-cultivation, medical, and therapeutic texts were now being used in martial arts. It was during this time that Xingyi, Tai Chi, Shaolin Chuan were described with self-development and spiritual exercise. It was forged with the Chinese martial arts, and this occurred around the 16th century. So this was the first marker of where just the language began to be intertwined with the martial arts from the spiritual, medical, and therapeutic texts. Marker 2. Now we're moved into the Qing Dynasty timeline, 1644 through 1911. After battling with both Europe during the Opium Wars, and if you need to, you can refer to episode 1 for that, and the Japanese, strengthening the spirit and the empowerment of the people was very important. Liang Qichao, an influential author of the time, promoted that the strength of the nation was dependent upon the health, well-being, and the strength of its people. So to take up health using a European model, the focus became sports, gymnastics, and physical cultural work. During the late 19th, early 20th century, most of the people there in China who were in a position to discuss it agreed that this better health, better nation concept was a good idea. It was the technique of carrying out this strategy where there wasn't as much agreement. And at this moment is where Chinese martial arts was able to insert itself to deliver. Many saw martial arts as an exclusive Chinese physical culture, and with some tweaks here and there, it could be used to strengthen the national body. Strong people, a strong nation. And in promoting that, the Jingwu Association, which there's a picture of here in the file, was established in Shanghai in 1910 to promote martial arts as physical culture to the modern world. Quote, more like a mission statement here. In order to make martial arts into an acceptable pastime for citizens of the new republic, the ancient skills had to be shown to be conducive to the new modern ways. The Jingwu Association called the movement the New Martialization and followed the slogan, scientize martial arts and spread them to the millions. Now I'm going to let you take a moment and consider the implication of having a mission statement that is going to take and scientize the arts and spread it to the millions for the new republic. There's a lot of things in that. It purged the martial arts. So, summary so far, we saw that the language in the late Ming Dynasty began to change and began to use text that was usually associated with self-cultivation, health, and therapeutic benefits. Recovering from the war, the nation looked to strengthen from the inside out through its people to its perimeter. I want to take a moment here and remind everybody that Kung Fu Podcast is extremely happy that we're growing the way we are, and we want to support you. If you have an article or book or some sort of good story, let me know about it. Send me an email. I prefer it through Twitter or Facebook. That would be great. And I'm reviewing new submissions almost every day. All right, marker 3. So we've had language, and then we've had the recovery from war. Now we're marker 3, media exposure. When Bruce Lee published his book in 1963, Chinese Kung Fu, Philosophical Art of Self-Defense, it was practically under the radar to the most of the public, unless you were a martial arts practitioner of some kind that was really into it. But by 1973, mediaization in the 70s took everything global very fast. Bruce Lee movies and personalities, celebrities that he was associated with, the Kung Fu TV series, comics, magazines, merchandise, was all created for this new genre. There's a picture here of Bruce Lee during the last interview, which is where he spoke about Kung Fu being an expression of yourself. His popularity and his beliefs that martial arts as a practice of self-expression and becoming yourself, along with the many Kung Fu episodes that I remember very clearly, because I'm an old man, alluded to the self-actualization, alluded to that developing yourself was a main plot or a main theme of the story. Associating the physical culture of Chinese martial arts to self-actualization and self-development was not only set, it was widely spread through this mediaization. So let's look at the summary of what we saw. 3 critical pivot points that connected Chinese martial arts with self-actualization to achieving your potential, to being your best. Prior to the Ming Dynasty, there wasn't much. During the Ming Dynasty, there was a blossom of martial arts, and the language became associated with that development, therapy, and health. Overcoming the battles of Europe and Japan, people were strengthening through the inside out, and then popular media and celebrities like Bruce Lee, Kung Fu, TV, movies, and series all began to spread this concept of self-actualization and self-development and self-expression as part of the martial arts. But let's not just stop at what happened. How's that moved into the present? In 2001, Shaolin monks were sent to Berlin, Germany, established an official branch. Esther Berg reads it because it's in German. I had to do the Google Translate thing, so yeah, that's all I got. She reports that there are several narratives on the site. One that stuck out is that the ideal state of being can only be achieved by constant self-evaluation and self-discipline. Now that I look at that picture again of the monk standing there in a prayer and his 2 peers standing on each side of him in the sword and combat stances, with this understanding, it certainly does make things look a little different. But let's take it even further. I'm here in the U.S., so after doing this study, I recalled that the U.S. Army slogan for over 20 years, "Be all you can be." Many of the ads pointed to developing young men into more than just soldiers. The U.S. Marine Corps ads that you'll see says honor, wisdom, tradition, loyalty. Concepts that promote the discovery of more than just learning how to fight like a soldier. Hopefully a better man will come out of the end of that journey. The Kung Fu Podcast position on this particular essay, Esther Berg, you're awesome. That was a great job. 22 pages. My highlighter broke. My coffee ran out. I learned words like provenance and could actually apply it. And I even got to research some of the references that you made in the article, and I thought it was incredible. It explained a lot of facts, and by that I mean they made sense. One of the big things that we look for here in a good story, not only does it have an impact, but it makes sense. All the links to the PDF, to everything I've mentioned here, will be at the White Bamboo store and on our website. Not everything is going public. Some of the content that we're creating here at Kung Fu Podcast is going to go onto the public site. Some will be delivered only to subscribers and followers. And the full PDF versions with all the pictures and everything that I would try to put together, audio storybooks where I'm taking this podcast and syncing it with the PDF. So it's like a little read along. We did request permission from Miss Esterberg. As I said, we spoke on emails. I'd like to thank Mr. Ben Judkins again. And even though I didn't consult with Ben on this particular essay, when I began this project, I reached out to him and he was very supportive. So just out of loyalty, I will probably mention him in just about every episode we have. I want to hear from you. Who has the history of another martial arts culture or style and how it was influenced through facts, not just legends or myths? I don't mind those, but I do like to have some history. Do you have a book or an event coming up that you want me to try to look at and perhaps support here on the podcast? I get questions about Hop, our little praying mantis mascot. You can find him on all of our social sites, Google, Facebook, and Twitter. And I really do appreciate you all joining us today for episode number 4, Self-Discovery, Being Your Best. When did self-actualization become a theme in Chinese martial arts?